Hello everybody and welcome back to A Royal Reader. My name is Snedra and today I am going to be doing my September wrap up. So obviously September is the month before October, which is the spooky month, and so I decided that I was going to be reading a bunch of creepy witchy novels, and I can safely say I definitely managed to do that. I have read quite a few books in the month of September and I am very proud of myself in order for doing so. So let's get into the books that I read for the month of September. So in the month of September, I managed to read 5 books, and as you can tell, they are all quite chunky, so I am very proud of myself. So let's get into the first book that I read for the month of September. So to start off the month of September, I decided to pick up Serpent Dove by Shelby Mahurin. This is a sort of historical fantasy set in medieval France. We follow 2 main characters, one Louise and the second is Reed. Lou is a witch. She is a Dame LeBlanche, which is a group of witches that have been plaguing the French for a very long time. And then we have Reed, who is in fact a witch hunter. So with a sort of unfortunate circumstance that I found extremely funny, Reed and Louise have to come together and be married in order to save both of their reputations. So in this we have a very funny, banter, witchy filled relationship that has Louise and Reed fighting with each other. It is definitely a enemies to lovers trope and I really enjoyed it. Shelby Mahurin has a way of describing characters that just make them feel real. I really enjoyed getting to know Reed and Louise and discovering the things that they would find out about each other and everything like that. This magic system is also very interesting and unique, so it is not hard to follow at all. So I really do condemn Shelby Mahurin for writing it in a way that makes it really easy to understand. So yes, I gave this book a 4 out of 5 stars and I really enjoyed it. So the next book that I did pick up was in fact The Bone Cries Moon by Catherine Purdy. This is a fantasy that follows our 3 main characters. We have Annalise, Sabine and Bastian. Annalise and Sabine are both bone criers in training. They are completing the task that they have to do in order to reach the final stage of becoming a bone crier, which is where you have to summon your soulmate and kill him within a year, and if you do not do it, then the both of you shall die. So in this we have Bastian as well, who is hell-bent on getting revenge on the bone criers for killing his father. So his father was summoned by a bone crier as he was their soulmate, and obviously the bone crier then killed him. So Bastian is on a vengeance streak to kill the bone criers and get rid of all of them so he can have revenge for them killing his father. So when Annalise is in the midst of summoning her soulmate, Bastian ends up pretending that he is her soulmate and ends up kidnapping her. We then have Sabine, who is attempting to try and find Annalise in order to get her back, and it is just a crazy whirlwind of magic and enemies to lovers to just a whole bunch of twists and turns. This story was fantastic. I really enjoyed it. There were some parts where I was like, this is dragging on a little bit, but then within the next 2 chapters or the next perspective, it was just insane. I really enjoyed this and I cannot wait to see the next book. So I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. So to break up all of these sort of witchy books that I had been reading after the first 2, I decided to pick up Furyborn by Claire Legrand as a bit of a whim. This story is such a fantastic fantasy. I really enjoyed this. So in the first timeline, we have Lady Riel, who has unfortunately revealed to the world that she is able to control the 7 elements of this world, which sort of gets her involved in this whole prophecy that has been delivered to this country, where they have 2 queens that will fight to the death, I guess you could say. There is the Sun Queen that will help restore and, you know, save the world, or there is the Blood Queen who will bring death and destruction to the world. So in this, Riel has accidentally revealed that she has the powers and will end up having to go under a trial in order to prove that she is in fact the Sun Queen and not the Blood Queen. So in the second timeline, which is set like 1,000 years after everything that happens with Riel, we have our main character, who is Eliana, I think is how you pronounce her name. She is in fact a bounty hunter for this new emperor who has taken control after the fall of Lady Riel, who does end up being the queen. In this, we have Eliana, who is trying to discover the truth behind all of these missing girls who have been taken from her town, including her mother. She gets involved in this really big rebellion thing, and we see the events of what happened with Riel sort of then transpire and sort of affect what's happening to Eliana, and I just thought that was so interesting. This book wasn't hard to follow at all, so if you're worried about reading a book that has 2 different timelines, I would not worry about it, because I managed to follow along and it was really easy to differentiate between the 2, and I thought this was incredible. This magic system is really unique, and it also has angels in it, which is really cool, and it's not the usual angel sort of fantasy trope that you would expect. It's definitely nothing like the angels from the Mortal Instruments, so definitely give this a try. I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars as well. I really want to pick up the next book so quickly, because this one ended on a cliffhanger and just, oh my god. So after I had my little break from the witchiness, I went back to the witches. So this is in fact Blood and Honey by Shelby McKeown. This is the 2nd book in the Serpent and Dove trilogy, I think it might be. So in this we follow the events of what has happened in the first book, and holy crap, there is a lot of like shit going on in this book. I really enjoyed that Shelby McKeown did not shy away from the PTSD and the sort of mental stress that can be put on a person during these really stressful and traumatic times of what happens in fantasy settings. This book definitely deals a lot with the sort of repercussions of, you know, having to kill someone, or, you know, having to deal with seeing your best friend get killed and stuff like that. So I really did enjoy that. There was definitely a lot of relationship issues that were going on in here, and it definitely, I think the main like plot point of this book was definitely that magic has a price, and you definitely see that throughout this whole entire book. So this also ended on a cliffhanger, and I am just, I need the next book now, okay? So yes, I also gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. And the last book that I read for the month of September was in fact my very first sort of thriller horror book, and that was in fact Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno Garcia. This was such an interesting book to read. So in this we have a main character who I want to say her name is pronounced Noemi. I could be wrong, but we have Noemi who has received a letter from her cousin, who is off in the Mexican countryside, I think, living in this big fancy mansion with her recent husband, who is this white, rich, fancy Englishman. And in the letter, it is very disturbing. Her cousin talks about hearing things in the walls and how they're after her, and so it's very disturbing. And so Noemi's father sends her to go and visit her cousin and find out what the heck is happening. So Noemi does, and she discovers that things are definitely not the way they should be, and that shit is just not normal. So this is set in 1950. The house that Naomi has to go and stay in with her cousin is this massive, big, Gothic, Victorian era style mansion, and it was just so creepy. It is a short book. This is literally 300 pages on the dot. I read this in one day. It was really interesting, and like, it was creepy, and it definitely gave me the chills, but it wasn't as scary as I was hoping it was going to be. This is definitely more of like a, it's not a psychological thriller, but it had that sort of feel to it, and it was definitely weird. I definitely want to say that. So I gave this one a 3 out of 5 stars. It creeped me out, but it wasn't like really that bad. Sylvia Moreno Garcia's writing is definitely the standout point for this book. I really enjoyed how she explained and described things. It was definitely the best part of it. If I could tab it, I definitely would, but my roommate is currently reading this, so I need to give this back to him. So those are the 5 books that I read in the month of September. I am really happy with how I managed to read so much, especially because lately I have not been reading that much, and I am really pleased with how I managed to read quite a few thick books as well. So that was really, really cool. So let me know if you guys have read any of these books down in the comments below. Let me know what you thought of them. If you want to see more of my thoughts of the books that I am currently reading, please go ahead and check out the social media links down below in the description box. I have my Twitter, Instagram, Goodreads, everything linked down below. So please go ahead and follow me down in those. And I will chat to you guys in my next video later on.